Welcome back after another tea break, and welcome also to the final leg of today's event. We're going to start by getting into the third technical session, and to chair the third technical session, I'm going to invite Nipuna Senanayaka. Let me give you a quick introduction to Nipuna and his background in just a moment. Nipuna Senanayaka is currently a senior lecturer in computing at Informatics Institute of Technology. His Bachelor of Science honors degrees from the University of California, and he holds a Master of Science in Computer Science from Georgia State University in the USA. Apart from academic career as a graduate researcher and a lecturer, he has worked in the industry as a software engineer in several multinational companies, both here in Sri Lanka and in the USA. His collective work experience in these fields sums up to 10 years. His research interests include machine learning, artificial intelligence, privacy, and security in computing. So ladies and gentlemen, will you put your hands together and welcome my friend, Nipuna Senanayaka, and senior lecturer in computing here at Informatics.
Right. Okay, good evening again, and after refreshment, kind of a break, so we'll go for our third technical session. And it's a pleasure. In this session, we would be presenting two works relevant to AI, and of course two different domain problems. And I'm happy to see both of them are from IIT, our own IIT students. Right? Okay. So first, we'll start with the session by Aishwarya Oshini Ilukumbura. Yeah. Right. The topic of the presentation is a Sinhala active voice to passive voice converter using rule-based approach with grammar error correction. Aishwarya, you can come. Right, just to give a quick intro on her. She's just done with her bachelor's from IIT, and she has an interest towards in AI, NLP, machine learning, deep learning, and specifically her interest is towards the uncover research gaps in Sinhala language compared to the other language. So it's an interesting thing. Of course, in the other languages, this has been done, I believe. And let's welcome her on stage. Over to you.
Hi, good evening everyone. I am Oshini Ilukumbura. Today I am here to present my research project, Sinhala active voice into passive voice converter using rule-based approach with grammar error correction. So this is the content that I will be covering through this presentation. So before moving to the problem background, I will briefly explain sentence structure of Sinhala active voice and passive voice. In Sinhala active voice sentences, it follows SOV structure. That means the order of the sentence is subject, object, and verb. Consider about the example included in here. First, the subject called as doer of the action keeps as active, and the receiver of the action keeps in inactive form. After that includes the verb. When consider about the Sinhala passive voice sentence structure, the subject keeps in inactive form and the object keeps in active form, and verb keeps in passive voice form. In between the subject and the object, how to put visin pratyay in between them. Sinhala is the official language and the national tongue of Sri Lanka. It is a difficult language where adherence to numerous grammar rules is necessary for formal writing to be correct. According to the GCE O-Level Sinhala Language and Literature Evaluation Reports on 2016, 17 and 18, the understanding of Sinhala active voice and Sinhala passive voice among students who sat for GCE O-Level exams is not satisfactory and advised to follow appropriate steps to improve their knowledge. So currently there is no proper solution to cover that identified problem. Also, there's a figure represent an output received from requirement gathering survey conducted by the author. According to that, 85.5% of students faced difficulty while learning and practicing Sinhala active voice into passive voice conversion related exercises. This slide contains the research gap identified with the support of literature. Convert Sinhala active voice sentences into Sinhala passive voice sentences or the reverse process of it, which means Sinhala passive voice into active voice conversion. Grammar checking for passive voice sentences, non-verbal sentences. Sentences include vibhakti, apara kriya, purva kriya along with the spell checking functionality and address error types and give more accurate suggestions for both subject and verb directions. Among the included research gaps, the highlighted content are the gaps I have covered through my research project, which are convert Sinhala active voice sentences into passive voice sentences, which was the major research gap I have identified. Other than that, have included grammar checking for passive voice sentences with a considerable amount of accuracy rate. The concept map here shows the areas that are covered in that research project. This research aims to design, implement and evaluate a system that is able to convert Sinhala active voice sentences into Sinhala passive voice sentences as an aid for students to learn and practice Sinhala passive voice related grammar rules. So this slide includes the high-level architecture diagram of my proposed system. In here, tiered architecture pattern was used to present the system architecture. The present tier represents the interface of the prototype the general users interact with. The data tier represents the component that handle data, and logic tier is responsible for controlling the interaction between the client and data tier for carrying out functionalities. So I am going to explain the purpose of each component represented in that system architecture design. In the data tier, there are data set that is used in Sinhala morphological analyzer tool included in active voice into passive voice conversion model, and also another data set makes use in active passive conversion related tasks, and the other set of data sets to train, test and evaluate Sinhala grammar evaluation deep learning model. In the logic tier, there are two separate models. Grammar error correction model is a deep learning model that is used to evaluate Sinhala grammar on the user input sentences. And Sinhala active voice into passive voice conversion model, it's a NLP model based on rule-based approach that is used to convert Sinhala active voice sentences into Sinhala passive voice. In the backend service, it includes created APIs to expose data into the user interface. In the presentation tier, it includes two screens to provide two separate functionalities on Sinhala active to passive converter functionality and Sinhala grammar error correction functionality. This figure shows the technological stack used to implement the prototype. For the front-end development of the web application, React.js with HTML, CSS, JavaScript and Bootstrap used. For the backend development, I used Flask framework and the Python programming language. In addition to that, libraries like Matplotlib, TensorFlow, scikit-learn, NLTK was used. Other than that, GitHub and Git are used as version control systems. So the testing related to Sinhala active to passive conversion model has done using manual testing for the used test data set. It gave 85% of accuracy rate. Related to the grammar error correction, the slide shows the accuracy plot and the loss plot of that deep learning model. Apart from that, for the use evaluation dataset, it gave 86.4% of accuracy. The proposed solution was evaluated using the criteria listed in that slide. So this slide includes some evaluations received from Sinhala domain experts, tech experts, and prototype end users. When talk about the novelty of that research project, there's no existing application or research conducted related to converting sentences written in Sinhala active voice into passive voice. And also in here, I have improved recognizable accuracy rate on Sinhala passive voice grammar error correction as an additional work. When talk about the limitations related to Sinhala active voice into passive voice conversion, the accuracy of the model was only tested using the created dataset by the author, and it can only perform for Sinhala active voice sentences with 3-word length. Since that conversion model is based on rule-based approach, the scope of that system perform is narrowed down into a defined scope, and conversion of the verb is dependent on the performance and the scope of the morphological analyzer used in that conversion model. When move on to the limitations related to Sinhala grammar error correction model, it can handle grammatical structures that contain a maximum of 8 words. The accuracy of the Sinhala passive voice grammar error correction is bit less than the accuracy of the Sinhala active voice grammar error correction. Out of that complete vocabulary, only 187,879 words are included in this. So this slide includes some future enhancements identified by the author. In that system, it can enhance the capability of Sinhala active voice into passive voice conversion model by creating a large data set and experiment with other approaches like deep learning. Improve the conversion model to provide output more than 3-word length sentences by capturing complex grammar rules. Improve the accuracy on Sinhala passive voice grammar error correction. Assistance in identifying the specific grammatical feature responsible for the grammatical error, and improve the system to convert the user input, which is a sentence written in Sinhala passive voice, into Sinhala active voice, which is the reverse process of that proposed system, and include spelling error checker and suggest the correct word to replace the incorrect word, and take user inputs as images or audio clips and give the output as another user input option, and enhance that proposed system's coverage of basic grammar rules included in the GCE O-level syllabus. As the domain contribution from that system, this is a system that is capable of converting sentences written in Sinhala active voice into passive voice, along with Sinhala grammar error correction on both Sinhala active voice and Sinhala passive voice sentences, as an learning application for students who are learning and practicing Sinhala active voice into passive voice related grammar rules which are crucial to learn for GC O-level examination. As technical contribution, this is a novel implementation to cover the existing research gap on related to Sinhala active voice into passive voice conversion. And also in here, improved the grammar error correction module to identify grammatical errors on Sinhala passive voice sentences. As an additional contribution, the author has created a dataset including Sinhala active voice and passive voice sentence pairs. Also with that, I have come to the end of the presentation, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Oshini, for the presentation. And it's the time for questions. We can start from the judges first, and then for the audience we'll go.
Thank you for the interesting presentation, and I think the novelty is obvious since there are no other solutions. I would like to hear from you what makes you to go ahead with a rule-based approach rather than a data-driven approach.
Okay. According to the given time constraint, it was difficult to create a larger data set like including 50,000 or like that amount of sentence pairs to experiment with approaches like deep learning. Because of that, first to provide the functionality, I use rule-based approach to first try to get the output.
Okay. So with this rule-based approach, because what we are seeing in other domains, for example, in chatbots, is like a scaling problem, right? So then what are the specific limitations? So you have mentioned one specific limitation that we need to maybe stick to a particular domain or something like that, right? So what are the other limitations because of this rule-based approach?
In active to passive conversion, when converting the active voice sentence into passive voice sentence, first we have to convert the subject of the active voice into the thing I am going to say is the subject in the active voice sentence is in ukta form. When converted it into passive form, I have to convert that subject into its anukta form. To perform that conversion, there wasn't some implementation or technology to capture that variation. So to overcome this, I have used a data dictionary including ukta and its anukta form in a data dictionary. So it's also a limitation of that proposed system. Apart from that, to do the changes on the passive verb form, I have used a morphological analyzer and a word joiner from Singling library. So the performance of that overall system also depend on that.
Right, Oshini, according to your results, it indicates that the accuracy of active voice is higher than passive voice, right? Why do you think that it's always higher than the passive voice?
I think the dataset I have used, in the dataset I have used, the amount of active voice sentence pairs is more than the amount of Sinhala passive voice sentence pairs. I think that is the reason to have a difference between those accuracy rates.
Right, so I'm just curious whether you tried with conversational sentences, like conversational, like මම ගෙදර යනවා කියලා කිව්වොත් whether it can convert into a passive form.
For that my proposed system, I used a specific number of subject and objects in this scenario to capture like these ones. I have to first include the ukta anukta forms in the defined data dictionary. Like consider about that example, the ukta form of gedara word is ukta and anukta form of this word is both same. So I have to capture those kind of variations and include in the created data dictionary.
Right. Okay, thanks. Great.
Oshini, thank you very much for interesting presentation and work. I have question. Basically, we are going to use role-based approach. So then totally relying on your corpus behind. How rich is it? Are you covering many domains or are you having specific domains only?
I didn't get the question.
Because you have used role-based approach
Well,
to identify these grammar errors. So the accuracy of the role-based system is totally depending on the corpus behind.
yeah.
So are you covering many domains in your corpus or are you having specific domains?
There was a data set named as word frequency list. By referring this, I have sorted the most frequent words used in sentences. So that's the data dictionary that I have used, created by referring that.
Is it already available? You have not added anything new?
From the word frequency list, I can only have the frequent ones. So to create the data dictionary, I have to put both ukta and anukta form of that words.
Mm-hmm. So is it capable to identify complex sentences?
No, only 3-word length sentences include sentence. The sentence format must be subject, object, and the verb.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you for the presentation and plus the question from the judge. So we can give one question from the audience. We are remaining with around 1 minute. If you have any questions from the audience.
Hi. So like we have a sentence like Rama killed Ravana. In this case, how do you identify the subject and the object? Because you need to tokenize, right?
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
Say we have a sentence like Rama killed Ravana. So like Ravanava Meruva. In that case, you need to find what is the subject and what is the object. So you need to tokenize Ravana and the other part, right?
To perform that, I have used a morphological analyzer developed by University of Moratuwa. By using this, I have evaluated the subject, object, and the verb. Also, the also whether it is on the corrected structure or not. Like I am validating it to include the user input with the order of subject, object, and the verb. Other than that, I'll not continue with that user input.
Right. Thank you, Oshini, for the presentation, and you can leave. And right. So we'll move to the next session, the next presentation. That's also, as I mentioned, from IIT student. So, right, the topic is healthy smile, that is analysis and recommendations based on life-enhancing applications for HIV patients. Right, that is presented by Celsia Sageratnam. Right. So let me introduce Celsia, and nice thing is actually he's not from the computing college, he's actually from the business college of IIT. So it's nice that the people who are working on the business side also working on the areas of AI and machine learning, which is an interesting thing. Right, about Celsia, she has a passion for exploring interactions for technology and human, and she's actually pursuing her degree right at the moment, I believe the second year, right, fourth year, right. And then about right, her research interests include the domains like healthcare, education, and lifestyle. Right, and she has worked on research projects and initiatives, and of course some problem solving skills also she has been improving while her studies at IIT. And right, so let me ask her on stage for the presentation. Give her a clap to welcome.
Thank you, sir. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sarsha Sagar Ratnam. So I'm actually a fresh graduate from IIT from the business school. So today I'll be presenting my final year project, which is Healthy Smile, co-authored by Mrs. Kumudini Sarat Chandra. This is an analysis and recommendations-based lifestyle enhancing application for HIV patients. So moving on, today I will be covering the problem domain, the problem statement, the review of literature, materials and methods used, proposed solution, and the conclusion. So first, let me start off by a story to take you all through the empathetical journey of the problem that I am addressing. So let me share with you the story of Rani. So Rani is a mother of 2 children living in a small village in Sri Lanka, and her husband was working overseas, and they decided it was high time they joined together as a family and start living in their small home in their small village. Well, Rani's husband came down from the Middle East and they started living happily, but Rani noticed that her husband was falling sick very often. And Rani was very suspicious and she just took him for a casual checkup, and the doctor said, we'll casually take a HIV test. And when they were waiting for the results in the waiting room, the doctor came out in the waiting room where all the other patients were waiting and said out aloud that he was tested positive for HIV. So this was the place where everything started going downhill for Rani. So by the time they went home, the whole village was aware of the husband's HIV status. And this wasn't easy for Rani to see her husband shatter in such a way. And the villagers also didn't take it easily, as they started throwing stones at her house and started scolding the husband and her family in filth. And Rani says it was with much difficulty that she was closing the ears of her 2 kids so that they would not hear anything bad about their father. So this is a society we live in. And Rani's husband didn't take it easy as well, and he committed suicide in a couple of days. And this left Rani shattered. And she continued to live in the village, but however, the villagers decided that it is a tainted family and they should not live there anymore. And they set fire to their house in the middle of the night. Rani did not know what to do. She left her village with her 2 daughters in the middle of the night with nothing but her 2 kids. She said she decided that day that she wanted to live no matter what. She wanted to survive for her 2 girls. So she went to one of her relatives' houses and they suggested that she too casually would take an HIV test just in case. And she was tested positive as well. She was so uninformed about the disease. She didn't know what she did wrong. She didn't know how she got it. She didn't know what she should do to overcome this or prolong her life. She was so lost. And Rani says that she didn't really know what to do, but all she wanted to do was live for her girls. This is the status of most of the HIV patients in Sri Lanka. So let's look into the problem domain, a global perspective here. So 40.1 million people have died from AIDS-related illnesses since the start of the epidemic. And in 2021, there were 38.4 million people living with HIV. And 1.5 million people became newly infected with HIV in 2021, and only 85% of the people living with HIV knew their health statuses, which means there were 15% who were unaware of their health status. And narrowing it down into a localized perspective, 0.17 per 100,000 people died during 2019 due to HIV-related illnesses, and 227 new cases were identified in 2019. as of 2022, the total number of patients diagnosed increased in that particular year by 49% compared to the previous year. There are currently 3,600 registered HIV positive patients in Sri Lanka as of 2022. So what is this HIV? Some of you might already know. Well, HIV is a virus that actually affects your immunity, and it affects your blood cells that fights the infection, so it naturally makes you more vulnerable to diseases. So the problem statement that I identified was difficulties in maintaining a healthy lifestyle for HIV patients in Sri Lanka. So looking into the review of literature, HIV patients face numerous challenges in their day-to-day life. First one is opportunistic infections. Due to their diminished immunity, they face a lot of opportunistic infections on their day-to-day lives. And also, unintended weight loss is a major symptom of HIV. But at present, in contrast to that, obesity is also noticed, and it is proven in researchers. And they also undergo a lot of mental health challenges such as stress, depression, and anxiety. And they also have difficulties in remembering, especially remembering taking their medicines on time. And they also face a lot of social stigma and public non-acceptance, especially in Sri Lanka, where it is yet considered as a taboo topic. So how could we better manage HIV? There are three main methods. The first one is the dietary requirements and restrictions. So HIV patients do have dietary requirements and restrictions. So generally, eating healthy would support anyone to increase their immunity. Same way, it will help them to increase their immunity, as well as it would help them to increase the efficiency of the antiretroviral therapy provided to them. And also, energy need of an HIV patient is generally 20 to 30% more compared to a normal human being of the same age and gender. And also, when we talk about dietary restrictions, so they are advised not to consume much alcohol, and they are also advised not to consume raw meat, raw eggs, and also much fatty food as well as sugary food. And as of recommendations, they are expected to consume more micronutrients and a nutrient-rich diet. And talking about exercise and physical activities, just like a common man, exercises and physical activities boost their immune systems as well. And in addition to that, exercises and physical activities also improve their mental health, and it could also improve their lifespan and their quality of life. Then comes lifestyle management. This is actually a combination of dietary requirements and restrictions, as well as exercises and physical activities, and also timely intake of medicines, adequate rest, and effective mental health care. So the materials and method used, so I have used 6 phases. The first phase is the requirement assembling phase. So here, 3 primary research methods were used to identify the requirements. The first one is questionnaires. So here, the questionnaires were distributed among HIV patients in IDH to collect more accurate responses from a first-hand basis. And interviews were conducted with medical experts, nutritionists, physical trainers, and also domain experts. And I also conducted focus group discussions with HIV patients to get a first-hand experience and to get an understanding on what exactly they go through, and to grow the empathy, to create a solution which actually caters their needs. So the second phase is the requirement analysis. So a few key findings from the analysis is, so when we questioned if they actually face difficulties in adapting to a new lifestyle, everyone agreed that they did. And when questioned about difficulties that they face when following nutritional restrictions and guidelines, majority said that they find it difficult to keep track of their daily consumptions, and then they also mentioned that they have insufficient knowledge on nutrition available in food. When questioned about their physical activities, 70% agreed that their doctors advised them to take part in physical activities, but however, 43.3% never take part in any physical activities, and 38% mentioned that they sometimes take part. So when we asked them, so what are the difficulties they have in engaging in physical activities, the majority mentioned that they have insufficient knowledge on exercises, and that they were unaware of exercise routines that could be followed, and they also mentioned that they had insufficient knowledge on what were the different outcomes of different exercises and much more. So we also questioned them about their memory in terms of an HIV patient. And almost everyone agreed that they do have a concern, and 53% said that they always had issues remembering their intake of medicines, while 48.7% said sometimes. When asked about what are the measures that they use to address this concern, most of them replied that they request one of their loved ones to remind them. And a few said that they use phone alarms to remind them to consume their medicines on time. However, when questioned if an application would be useful to them, all of them agreed, while majority said that they would always use the application. So talking about the solution design, so I'm talking about the UI mainly here. So the color palette I've chosen is mainly based on blue. So usually when we talk about HIV, the color we address is red. But however, in the application, I am not using that color because it's a constant reminder of their sickness, and it would always be in the back of their mind. So already they have a mental pressure, but I do not want to increase it by incorporating that color on an application that they use on a constant basis. And also, visual consistency is maintained with all buttons and typefaces staying consistent throughout the application. And I've also made sure the navigation is simplified and the user flow is simplified enough as well. So talking about the solution development, Python Flask was used for development purposes and Firebase was used for the databases. And I've also used HTML, JS, and CSS for the front end. And I've also used APIs such as Logmeal API and Nmem API for the food recommendations purposes. So talking about solution testing, technical testing was performed, so black box testing was done. And the test results were positive and to expected level. As of user testing, the solution was shared with domain experts and the ultimate end users, which were the HIV patients. And I did receive favorable response with a bit of a feedback on what could be improved or what they would like to include in the application. So the proposed solution that I'm highlighting and talking about here is an analysis and recommendations-based lifestyle enhancing application for HIV patients. So the key features are that the user will be able to track their nutritional intake. So this is based on image processing. So what actually is done here is through the application, the user could take a picture of their plate, and the application would decode whatever is on the plate, and it would identify the nutritional information and display it to the user. So in case they're consuming something that they're not supposed to consume, so let's say there's an uncooked egg. So in that case, the application would be able to detect and say to them that you're not supposed to consume it, it's not good for your health. And also, there is also a exercise tracker. So this is based on a recommendation system. So this recommendation is done based on their age and their diagnosis stage. So HIV is diagnosed into 3 main stages. So acute, chronic, and AIDS. So usually when you are in the AIDS stage, you're not supposed to take part in physical activities. In such scenarios, no exercises would be displayed in the application. But however, for the other 2 scenarios, based on your age category and your BMI, exercises would be suggested. And the application is also used to track their medicine consumption and refills, and it would send continuous reminders to do so. And you could also schedule doctor appointments, view financial aid information hubs, and earn redeemable badges and points through the application. So talking about the uniqueness of the solution, well, it is the first of its kind in Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, generally HIV is a taboo topic and there is no solution addressing HIV at all. We do have a government website, but that is the only thing that is close to some kind of a solution that is available. So this is the first of its kind in Sri Lanka. And it also provides a nutritional analysis platform for people living with HIV based on image processing. So there are other applications which does that, but it's not customized for people living with HIV. So that is a uniqueness. And same with the physical activity recommendation. And it also has gamification aspects for user motivation, such as the point collection. So the points that they collect by actively participating in the application could be redeemed when they're channeling a doctor or otherwise. And also it replaces the use of multiple other applications. For example, if a person could be using an application to track their medicinal intake and another different application to track their consumption. But however, with this application, it is all brought under the same umbrella. So recommendations for the solution, well, currently the solution is catered in English language, but however, for the future, I would like to develop it into Sinhala and Tamil languages as well, as our target audiences are more literate towards the Sinhala language than English, and also to integrate with other health platforms such as Google Health and Apple Health, because it would make life easier and the application more efficient. and also to train an ML model, because currently I'm using a rule-based model for the recommendations due to my limited knowledge. But however, I would like to train one in the future, and also to improve the image processing model, because the API I'm using currently is a Western API, so the identification of local foods is very limited. Therefore, building a model for that and training it is very sufficient, will be very sufficient for the application. And also the practitioner's portal and the associated features are yet to be developed. And also, I would like to implement a multi-factor authentication to increase the ease of signing into the application. So concluding, people living with HIV face numerous challenges to adopt and maintain a healthy lifestyle, and the proposed solution addresses this concern with the use of various technologies to increase their lifespan. So thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Right, thank you, Selsha, for the presentation. So, right, so it's open for judges to start with the questions and then for the audience.
Thank you for very interesting presentation. I think you are addressing a good social problem. And I can understand that this can be categorized probably as action research. That's also an important problem in the society. But since this paper is based on the data science and AI track, I would like to know whether there is like core computing contribution in your research. And the other question is like probably we can think of HCI angle, but in that case, I would expect more like extensive UX, user experience or user UI kind of evaluation. So could you please explain like what is the, is there any core computing contribution in your research?
So talking about the computing contribution, well, at the moment I'm using an API for the image processing. Well, the API is not very accurate enough, so in the future I would want to build my own ML model. That is, the API I'm using is for image recognition. So what's happening there is generally when you take a picture, the nutritional values are recognized and it's displayed. But however, the accuracy is very low when compared to the portion sizes and also the local food. So in that case, image processing model should be developed where maybe like a thumb rule could be used to identify the portion sizes and also to cater the local needs. So that is where it is connected.
Okay, so is there any like technical novelty, like for example, like some kind of algorithmic contribution or something like that? No, right?
No.
So you have used the technologies which are there in order to build your system and you attempt to solve this problem,
Yes.
right? Okay, thank you.
Right, Selsha, you have already developed the mobile application.
Yes.
Is it in Android?
It's in Android.
Did you use native Android or?
So I developed it as a progressive web application actually. So it is a web app that you could use on your mobile as well.
Right. Is there a particular reason for you to use the blue color? And
Yes.
why is that?
So blue is generally the color of calmness. So I wanted the users to feel calm when they're using the application and not be traumatized by their disease. So that is the main aim. So that was why the color blue was selected.
Right. Have you actually uploaded the app to Google Play Store? Or
Not yet.
So it's in the development stage, right?
In the last phases of the development.
Okay, right. So because you are going to use an API and you are going to pass any medical records to the backend, or
not at the point. Right. At the point, no personal medical records are passed on to the backend. But in the future, I wish to incorporate it with other medical solutions. So in case now Sri Lanka is in the process of building its own EHR. In such cases, integrating with such solutions would be effective for both parties, the patients and the doctors.
Right. So if you are going to extend this to recognize local food. Right? So building a machine model to recognize local food with itself will be a different project, another project, right? So you can keep that in mind. Right? Okay.
Thank you very much for interesting presentation. So I also agree with the other two members here. So basically you are addressing a topic which is very broad, right? And basically if you want to achieve a high sort of accuracy more towards the personalized recommendation, so it is not about recommending the same meal for all HIV patients. So based on their activities and exercise levels, so you have to do very deep analysis. So that may be the thing that you are lagging your project behind, and at the same time I found that the evaluation is not happening, right? Have you tested the accuracy of your system?
So accuracy-wise, I've tested the image processing API that I'm currently using. So as per the testing, it had around 80% accuracy because it could identify some local foods, but our major local foods like what we consume on a day-to-day basis were not accurately identified. But however, the Western food that we consume on a regular basis were.
Okay, so 80% accuracy for image recognition,
Image recognition.
part, right? So not the recommendation part,
No.
exercising. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you judges for the questions, and then we can take one question from the audience.
Is that a free API that you are using for the food recognition?
Yes.
Right. So when it comes to the accuracy of the Sri Lankan food classification and identification, is it over at least 60 or 70%, or is it below 50?
It's around 60%.
For the Sri Lankan food?
Sri Lankan food. So Sri Lankan food as in a basic rice and curry combination could be identified. But when it comes to string hoppers and curry or like hoppers and curry, then it lags a bit.
So did you check out, there's an app, Samsung Health, I can't remember the name.
All right.
It recognizes the food categories, but once again the Western food.
Okay.
Did you try out that?
No, I tried a couple of other APIs. So out of it, the one log meal API was the only one which had this level of accuracy for Sri Lankan food. So.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Selsha, for the presentation. Right. Right. That brings us to the end of our third technical session, and it's very interesting projects in different domains, and it's really nice to see the students are working on different aspects, and of course there are possibilities that we can improve when it comes to the technical side of it. And personally I prefer the students from different domains and different disciplines collaborate together so that we can bring new research. So I think it's opening up, so it should be like we'll see a good things going upcoming. So yeah. And thank you very much for joining the session. And so I'll wrap it up here and hand over to Havindra, my friend.
Thanks, Nipuna. Nipuna, before you go, we'd just like to present you with a token of appreciation. Thank you so much for chairing the session. I'd like to invite Mr. Austin Mascarange, Head of Department, the Business School, to give the token of appreciation. Thank you so much. We now have our next tech talk, and to deliver the tech talk, I'm going to invite Mr. Manjulal Vas from Zone 24/7. Manjulal is the head of client services, and he will be talking to us about AI-powered analytics, transforming real-world challenges into solutions in the physical realm. Manjulal, if you're here, I'd like to invite you. Oh, there you are. The stage is yours, Manjulal. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here and inviting. So I represent Zone 24/7, and as a company, we have been involved in R&D and research for the past 19 years. So I know it has been a long day for most of you, So let's dive into the presentation, and I will also make it concise. So we are all familiar with web analytics. So this is a much talked topic, and also you can get so many tools that gives you basically various analytics when it comes like where the customer logs from, through to basically the propensity of the customer and the spending patterns, all that. So the point I'm trying to make during my presentation is, so this area is crowded. But with all these analytics that's available right now, we are only targeting 20% of the total sales in the world. So still, to date, 80% of the sales is converted in the physical world. So what if we focus on the 80%? So there's a lot more money to be made, a lot of research to be conducted, where we can basically focus on the physical world using AI and ML tools. So I'm going to walk you through a few examples that we have done as a company so that you can relate to it and understand how you could basically tap into this market. So basically what we have done is we take the input in this particular example through a camera or a stored video, and then our ML engines would process that video and generate analytics based on that video and insights, which can be easily converted in a presentable form in a dashboard or can be integrated to communication platforms for real-time communication. So traffic counting is a basic use case that we have addressed, and in traffic counting we have extended it to integrating other demographics like age and gender. So this is an example video that I would like to show, which shows a basic traffic counting example where our engine basically identifies the in and out count in real time. So this can be performed in stored video as well. And we took retail as an example, but it is not limited to retail. It can be malls, museums, events, hospitals, exhibition centers, and the list goes on and on. So the main use case would be like you don't have any additional hardware installed. You take the feed from the camera and do your processing and generate business insights based on that. And the importance here is we are basically bringing AI ML into the physical realm where we give real insights based on what happens in the physical world. And I actually would like to reiterate, so still today 80% of the sales conversion is in the physical world. So there's a lot of potential if you focus on the physical world and apply your ML and AI techniques to generate insights. So this is another example that we have done where a factory flow is being monitored, and you see the gaze of the person is detected and the attention span is calculated. So you could basically generate heat maps or whatever the format can be, needs to be. But here what we are monitoring is the attention span of the associates and the time, real time that they spend on the job. So these are some of the example use cases that we could use AI and ML tools to generate insights and also, most importantly, improve the efficiency of the workflow. And also a commonly discussed topic is intrusion detection. So here in this example video, you will see like when a vehicle is parked, after hours that is being detected, object is identified. So these are very simple things right now in the present day technology, but we can extend these models as we have done here to detect people when they cross a border, if they are carrying any weapons with them, and also like alert in real time. line busting is a much debated topic. Everyone wants to reduce the amount of time a customer spends when they want to check out with the items that they have purchased. So this has been a great problem where basically so many research has been conducted. So they are trying, various customers have various levels of patience. So some might be willing to stay for 1 minute, and certain customers may not want to spend more than 30 seconds. So different retailers have different margins, and what we are essentially doing here is we are monitoring the queue in real time. And here you will see people are passing this area, but they are not counted as people who are waiting there to check out. In the best interest of time, I will try to fast track. So the output of this is where we can basically take this knowledge and manage queues. Say we can open more checkout counters as and when needed, and also pre-plan. Depending on the customer inflow, outflow, we can generate the insight and inform the store manager to have more people in the checkout queues to basically service the customers. And we have basically used 3 deployment strategies: 100% in cloud, on-premise, and also hybrid. When I say hybrid, it has mostly been, we do the dashboard always hosted in the web, and also we might have processing on-premise in most of the cases. But we have tested with Microsoft Azure, Google, Amazon, and Dialog Cloud, and we could deploy the complete solution in the cloud, where we use the existing hardware. So the main purpose of sharing these insights is for you to basically think beyond this and see how Sri Lanka can do better AI ML based solutions to address the specific questions that are relevant to the physical world. Thank you. So if there are any questions, I would like to take the questions now.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Manjulal, for the nice presentation.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, are you building these in-house, or are you using existing models or transfer learn? What is your actual approach when it comes to build this model? Is it like just a combination of that? Just wondering how it's done.
I would say a combination of both, but we were early adopters of the technology. So it has its own advantages and disadvantages, right? So when we started, there weren't many tools for us to build on. So we had to do a lot of tools on our own. But now you get certain models that you can use. So the advantage we have being early adopters is now we have the entire stack in-house for most of the applications. So we have full control over it. Now, for example, like our demographic model, when COVID came, people started wearing face masks. But then comes the challenge, can you identify gender and age accurately with the face mask on? When it comes to age identification, there were challenges. But still, I wouldn't say it was zero. It was quite okay. But our accuracy level went down. And when it came to gender identification, it didn't matter at all. So likewise, we were able to train our models better because we had the entire stack and we had control over the whole thing.
Okay, nice. The things that we didn't do in academia is actually contributing back to the industry. So that's what
Absolutely.
we see. And thank you for the presentation again.
You're welcome. Thank you. So if we don't have any new questions, then we could wrap up. So the point that I would like to reiterate is there's a lot of AI and ML models that can be used in solving practical problems in the physical world. So I would encourage all of you to explore more avenues in these areas. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Manjulal Vas, Head of Client Services at Zone 24/7. Thank you so much, Manjulal, for being with us and for sharing what you did. We're at the very last item of today's agenda, and that is the panel discussion. As you can see, there are some chairs being brought into the stage, and I'm going to invite our panelists to join us. It's going to be a very interesting subject, and we're going to conduct this in a very exciting way. There's going to be a debate of sorts. We're going to talk about generative AI, or learning and assessment in the age of generative AI. We've been talking about this the whole day virtually, the challenges that we face in the learning and assessment domain when it comes to generative AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite 3 panelists to talk for generative AI and its benefits in terms of learning and assessment. And I'm also going to invite another three panelists who will talk maybe against or bring some cautionary points towards the impact of generative AI in learning and assessment. All right, so those who will advocate for generative AI, I'm going to invite first and foremost Dr. Ruan Veerasinghe, who is the head of data science at Informatics Institute of Technology. Dr. Ruan, if you could take the seat to my extreme left, please. All right. I'd also like to invite now one of the panelists who will bring a cautionary note, and that's Professor Umasanga Thiasivam. Professor Umasanga Thiasivam, if you could take the seat on this extreme, please. Thank you. Professor Uma is the professor in statistics and data science at the Department of Mathematics, Rowan University, USA. I'd also like to invite the associate dean now in the School of Business, Professor Nalaka, who will advocate for generative AI. Professor Nalaka, if you could take the seat right next to Dr. Ruan there, that'll be excellent. All right, and I also want to invite Ms. Naomi Krishnaraja, the Dean of the School of Computing, to again bring the cautionary discussion points, and she will take a seat right next to Professor Uma there. Now I'm going to invite 2 students who will bring their thoughts into this panel discussion as well. Both of these students are students from the School of Computing at IIT. And I'm going to invite Ishini and Bhanuka. Ishini, if you and Bhanuka could step forward and get on stage, please. Bhanuka, you would take a seat next to the Dean of the School of Computing, and Ishini, you would take a seat right there next to Professor Nalaka. All right. So welcome to both parties. It's good to have you on stage. And ladies and gentlemen, would you give them a big round of applause as we start our discussion? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask... oh, there you go. Ah, yes. Thank you, Dr. Ruan. Very quickly before we start, I'd like you to scan the QR code. Let me get out of the way and scan the QR code there. There is a quick poll that we would like you to take. Right? So if you could scan that QR code and respond as quickly as you can to the poll. All right, there you have it. What is your view of the use of ChatGPT in student learning and assessment? So could you quickly take a moment? I don't think you can see the final. Let me quickly read them out. The first one is good for learning as well as assessment. The second one is good for learning, not good for assessment. And the third option is not good for learning nor assessment. And finally, you see not good for learning, but good for assessment. So you can see that on your device screen. All right, so it looks like quite a few people say that at least 57% at the moment. Some people may be changing their minds. And we see quite a high percentage there that say it's actually good for learning as well as assessment. All right. Interesting. All right, very interesting. So thank you. So please do go ahead and respond the poll while we continue. So to begin, I'm going to ask Dr. Ruan. Dr. Ruan, if you would I'm also going to have to limit each person's discussion to 3 minutes because of time. Dr. Ruan, if you could take a moment to explain to us why you advocate for generative AI in the areas of learning and assessment.
Thank you. So let me start off by saying I think one of the psychologists have found that, you know, people retain things that they find out themselves more than anything that is taught or shown or read or anything. So the best kind of learning for retention seems to be self-learning. And so far we have had this problem, how do you self-learn? It's really difficult because you've got to do a Google search and then find videos and so on and so forth. Now we have something, some sort of a kind of a teacher, I would say, with caution, who is there 24/7, weekends, anytime. And so here's an opportunity for you to have self-directed learning. So as an example, let me say, you know, one day I was at my shower and I saw water going down my my body, and I suddenly thought, okay, this navel, you know, what if water goes into that? And I was like a bit, you know, and I thought, okay, do all mammals have navels? I mean, a simple question, right? And I didn't know the answer to that, but a very simple query, and I got that there are a class of mammals that don't have a navel, and those are the marsupials, right? So you never stop learning with this kind of thing, and it leads to other questions. And so this is, of course, the comfort zone of people who advocate. On the other side of assessment, I think the main issue is that assessment as we know today will not work, and it has to be completely changed. So rather than, you know, stopping people use these tools, we have to, as academics, see how we can reformulate our assessments in order to ensure that people are using these tools in a healthy way. And I think that's my 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ruan. Professor Umar, if I could ask you to respond to that, and let me get this mic to you. And with another 3-minute cautionary note, perhaps, to what Dr. Ruan said.
First of all, thanks for this, you know, the wonderful panel. This is actually a very important thing and interesting thing. I agree the self-learning is, you know, very important, but I'm not seeing this as self-learning, you know. As I said, you know, even in my morning talk, there is a lot of garbage in this. So if you just end up learning which is not supposed to be, then that's going to be really, there is nobody to mentor you to say that this is not something you are supposed to. Especially in the subject of more science and mathematics side, there is a lot of guidance you need in order for you to groom. So I agree there is a lot of benefits of this, you know, the learning tools what we have, but we have to make sure that there is a mentor, there is a human interaction to just guide and mold that. I can even just try to connect it the way, like sometimes I think, I hope it doesn't happen now. It used to be like, you can get a license without even drive properly. You cannot even just move the car, but you can get license. I'm just seeing it as that way. If you just get the license, then try to learn to drive the car, are we ready to sit on the car with them or not? That's what I'm just seeing it. So certainly there is a lot of benefits I'm seeing it, but there has to be a proper way of just, mentoring is a key. And the most important part is the emotional connection of the teaching. You can see now we are almost the end of the session, right? And the way we need to talk should be the same when we just begin the session, which we understand and we talk accordingly. But as just the machines, they don't understand. So no matter what you are listening, it's just that part of how do we connect the students. It's just bringing that touch is just something you cannot bring it from the machine. So that's what my take. So of course, Dr. Rowan already just agree about the assessment part. By the same time, as academic, we have to think seriously, how do we make use of it? That's what I said. There has to be a clear policies and things like that we need to bring. And then, think about the biases involved in that and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Umashankar. Thank you for that. All right, Professor Nalaka, I'd like to give you also another 3 minutes to talk about why you advocate for generative AI in these areas.
So if you think about the popularity of ChatGPT, 1 million users in 5 days. So that means all of these happening because of the socialization of technology. Now early days when you talk about Industry 4.0, AI was there and people were using industrial applications, but because of the ChatGPT, so that becomes socialized. So when the technology becomes socialized, you can't control it. So people start using that one. So therefore, we need to allow them to use. Now, for example, even we don't have ChatGPT or anything, we had Turnitin. Why we had Turnitin? Because when it comes to assessment, so there are falsification, so kind of things were there. So then there's no way that we can control people to not use ChatGPT. So therefore, when you are thinking about the way we understand the world, we have models. So for example, current education model, we have curriculum, we have teaching, learning, assessment model. So then this ChatGPT and this AI tools actually challenge our current model. So we need to think about paradigm shift. So we need to do some kind of a revolutionary changes when it comes to teaching and learning. So if you think about the curriculum development, so the lecturers can use these tools and develop the curriculum based on ChatGPT. So when it comes to teaching, so then you can get prepared. Now early days when it comes to traditional internet, we need to search information. So that means we need to search, we need to process, then we need to teach. So now with the ChatGPT as academics, so we can quickly get that one because we have enough knowledge to assess that one, whether it is a gray literature or not. Even when it comes to Google Scholar, so there are a lot of gray literature. So we need to have some kind of a human intelligence to identify this is good, this is bad. So then we need to allow to people to use that one. So when it comes to learning, so we are talking about tutoring. So when it comes to tutoring, so when it comes to universities, so we need to get a lot of human resource. But we can let the AI tools to be a tutor. So then they can learn. So I tried that one. I wanted to learn Python. I asked ChatGPT, I want to learn ChatGPT, can you teach me? So then it's give nice introduction, where to download, how to install, that is there. So when you learn, learning is not in a classroom. So we need to think about totally different way of learning. So we need to think about assessment as well. Now think about, so current teaching and learning assessment. So we teach in the classroom, and when we give assessment, so take home assessment. So we need to flip this. So we need to let the student to learn outside. So when it comes to assessment, so we need to ask students come and do the presentation. We can ask questions. So we can have different type of assessment. So therefore, we need to change the model. So once we change the model, when we can embrace this technological change, the paradigm shift, then we can go for the industry 5.0, then we can take our students to the next level. if we're not allowing them to use that one, so the technology is growing and the world is moving, so we are strict with this model that as we know as education. So then there's no way that we can develop our country to the next level. So therefore, I'm totally agree with this. We need to change our model, then we need to bring in this artificial intelligence into education system. But current model, so you can't do that one. You need to come out from that, then you need to think from different perspective. So then we can embrace that technology. That's my view.
Wow, Professor Nalaka, that was more strong points really for ChatGPT and what's going on in the generative AI space. Thank you so much. I'd like to hand over to you, Ms. Naomi, to speak your points that are cautionary, towards what was just shared now.
Yeah. So ChatGPT is good. AI generative models are good, but we have to have caution. When we give set assignments, we have certain learning outcomes. And we want to see students can generate a piece of assignment or an essay and bring it and give it to us. But has he achieved the learning outcome? Right? There is problem solving, critical thinking. If a student is lazy and they rely so much on these tools, they will lose their capacity to critically think. They will lose their capacity to problem solving skills, they will lose. And how will they get to the industry? Are they always going to rely on this? Are they going to become dependent on this? So I think it is our duty to tell them the other side of it, cautioning them and saying where to use, how to use. And it's also, as Professor Umar said, we must have certain policies in place. Like even at the moment in the first semester, we could not have, we allowed students to use ChatGPT at exams. But we saw the marks just rising up. Second semester, we brought in some tools, lockdown browsers, which normalized it. So we have to take a cautionary approach.
Thank you, Ms. Naomi. Thank you for that point there. Next up, we have with us two students, right? So you guys were the ones who were doing the assessments, right? With ChatGPT in the arena, with access to all this stuff that could help you, right? And we want your points as well. Ishini, I'm going to ask you first to share your thoughts. Is your mic around? Your thoughts on why you think generative AI is positive towards your learning and your assessment opportunities or assessment as well.
Well, personally, I haven't quite done the more negatively affecting path of just putting in a assessment into ChatGPT and getting the answer. So I wouldn't recommend that or condone that at all. But I would like to introduce a statistic I just looked up for this panel. So since research was a huge topic in this conference today, I looked up how many research papers are available in platforms such as Google Scholar, which is over 100,000 articles. And as students, when we are given a research paper to write or some sort of report to produce as an assignment, we have, even if we have a specific topic, that 100,000 articles are slimmed down to almost 1,000 articles. And even with that much of content to go through within a short limited period of time before submission, it can demotivate us. About five articles in, you would be thinking, okay, that is when we would turn to ChatGPT and be like, please write this paper for us. Instead of doing something like that, we could use ChatGPT to ask them, okay, so I want to write a paper on this specific topic. Please recommend me articles that I can read on this so that I can gain my own self-knowledge. You don't need to write the paper for me. I will write it myself. Just help me out, give me a little bit help. So I've done that before, getting very specified papers for my research. And that had helped me a lot because one, it saved me a lot of time when finding articles that are relevant. And two, it made me more interested in the research because I'm actually reading things that are more relevant to what I am researching. So when used properly, ChatGPT definitely helps us study more. From my perspective, it helps us study more. It makes us more motivated towards what we are learning because if we ever have a doubt and we ask ChatGPT, it's almost like a friend, and they would explain to us exactly why this doubt is happening. Or if we have a code error that we can't understand and we put it in ChatGPT, they would list all the issues that can be possible. And then we could, if we use it properly, we could figure it out and we could learn from our mistakes. So that's why I believe that ChatGPT has a positive effect on assessments.
All right. Thank you, Ishini, for bringing us that perspective from a student's point of view. Bhanuka, I'd like to ask you, also from your point of view, do you see that as a positive thing, or what are the factors that you would say to Ishini? Ishini, you know you're right, but what would you say?
Yes, sir. Like when we are doing a research, the main purpose of a research is to discover new things that we can't grab from our academical books or something, right? So in that case, if we are going for a generative AI and ask for the content or something, then there will be no learning. There will be no learning that we are gaining from there. So that would be a kind of a point that we can say that we should avoid going for a AI-based approach while doing assessments. And if we take some kind of like a batch, a group of students in a batch, there are different kind of students in there. Like there are someone who are genuinely working on their assessments, as well as there might be some guys like waiting until the last minute and trying to do the assessment and trying to grab some higher grades. So in that kind of cases, like they are trying to find shortcuts to like find answers for their researches and assessments. So in that case, that will be not fair. Like there are some kind of genuinely working guys, as well as someone who are using generative AIs for generating their content. So in that case, the evaluating will be somewhat not fair, like if we don't recognize who are using AI or who are not using AI. And also like the main thing that would be like how much we are doing projects, how much we are engaging in working on some projects, assessments. That is how we are gaining experience on work. Like when we are firstly going into internships during third year or industry replacement, in that case we are not previously did any work or something to grab experience. So the assessment is the one which we are taking in our CV, like we have done some work and we have some experience on these kind of areas. So if we are going for that generative AIs and grab content from there, then our experience is not actually valid. So in that case, when we expose to industry, then we will be facing into troubles. So that is the one, like as we are students, we should understand like we need to put our effort, we need to put our energy on our assessments and do the assessments ourselves. So that I think that is the main thing on doing researches without generative AI.
All right, thank you, Bhanuka. That makes a lot of sense as well. Thank you for sharing all that information, those points of view. I think it made a lot of sense. If there are any questions at this time, please feel free to ask. You can direct your questions to myself so that I can pass it on, or you can direct it to one of the panelists. At the same time, there's going to be a QR code up here for questions. If we can have that on the screen. You could scan the QR code and type in your question as well. We'll see it at the back here. And then the panelists can respond. This is not this one. This is the, it's okay. You can take this off for the moment. Take this off for the moment, okay? All right, any questions from the audience for any of the panelists regarding what they said? Can we have a mic going to anyone? Any questions? Yeah, there's one question over there.
Thank you for organizing this great panel discussion. I have some kind of fundamental question, because over the years, AI has replaced lots of repetitive kind of jobs. And now it is also reaching to some level of creativity with generative AI models. So for humankind, can we go to a, can we redefine the creativity now? So creativity, and can people become more inventive or creative humans as a result of this? Maybe what I will see is probably we can now use the AI to get done the day-to-day life work, and we can spend more time with families, since AI can take, or robots can take some of the duties. And then the rest of the time, can we become more creative, or can we become more inventive? So what is your thought on that?
So when you think about if you want to create something, you have a blank paper. So you have a blank paper, then you need to think about and come up with that one from the scratch. But if you have a generative AI, so then you have something in that one. So then you can build on that. So for an example, I wanted to have some kind of a tourism business model. I have nothing in my mind. So then I go to ChatGPT and ask, so what kind of business models are there in tourism? So then that will list out all these things. Then I can pick and choose, okay, this is good. So then I can build on that one. So therefore, when it comes to creativity and innovativeness, so this starting with the blank paper versus starting with something. Something is better than nothing. So therefore, if you have some kind of a kick, so inventors need that kick. So when you see something, when you go through something, then that's where you can get the kick. So then when you get that kick, so you can come up with the creative idea very quickly. But otherwise, so you have to waste a lot of time to initiate the ideas. Now, when you think about the singers, poem writers, so they are throwing away a lot of papers. Because if you try to develop something from the scratch, it is difficult. But if you have something, okay, that you can include your thought process and improve it, so then that is much easier. So that's the way that we need to think about. That's why I told you. So if you have the same framework, so assessment, the essay type questions, those kind of things, you can't allow students to use ChatGPT. They will copy that one. That is the human nature. So therefore, we need to change the model. So where we think, so as education, when it comes to curriculum, teaching, and assessment, if you change that one, so then we can do a lot of things. So if you think about this, lot of this innovation competition, some of the inventors coming in, by looking at something, they can think about how I can develop this one further. So same thing will happen when you are applying ChatGPT. So you can give the parameters to ChatGPT, he will come up with the answer. Then you can think about that and you can modify that one. So you don't need to copy and paste that one, but you can build on that. So that's the beauty of this technology from my perspective.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Umar, you've got something to say about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree. I think that, one of the things, as a human, we've grown up a lot, right? So we are now talking about this machine which just came how many years ago, and then just debating that's going to make our life easy and make us as lazy. That's what I would put it. Because if you want to be creative, there are different ways to do so. I can see that we can get things done sooner, but is it going to help us in the long run? Maybe not. Just believe me, in 10 years, there might not be a ChatGPT, something else. It's going to evolve and things are going to change. So we have to be smart enough to be just, move in the direction to just fight for it, rather than just thinking, okay, we can just use this to creative a lot. Of course, there are a lot of things like as a tool, we can use it, so that we can dedicate most of our time to do some serious things. But that doesn't mean that we have to become more lazy and then not creative. I will just connect the simple one thing. If you just go back, the calculators are available for a long time, right? But there is always a policy in every places where when to use calculator at what age. Why is that? Why we have to just memorize those tables? Why don't just ask the kids to use calculator to do that? There is a lot of reasoning behind that, which is not necessarily can be explained scientifically, right? Which is why we exist and we are just, doing better, and then we are even creating this ChatGPT and so on. So the fundamental has to be there by just someone who can just, guide us to go through, but we can always use these tools to help us and enhance us, but not to replace us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So there you have it, the answer from both sides of the coin.
Now
Dr.
it's getting very interesting. I mean, what I hope for. So I mean, thank you for the question from the audience. For me, I think it's not a case of what we do and what AI does or something like that, but what we do with AI. And so today, of course, this location, everybody probably knows, but if I ask you to come to my place, right, you are technology enhanced. You won't ask me my address and the directions and all that. You will say, send me a pin, right? Map, Google pin map or something. So we are already technology enhanced, right? The way we have already used technology to just a simple thing like going to visit someone. So I think that's the kind of thing that we are going to see. Not so much that, well, there will be some menial tasks which can be outsourced to robots, but mostly I think this AI we will use to enhance our decision making and our activity.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wan. I think that was a very good set of answers. Yes, Ms. Austin.
Yeah, so Dr. Rohan, you said to give the menial task to the AI. I would like to suggest the opposite of that. Give the most complex task to the AI. So one of the problems that we are now facing is the diversity of students who come and their reactions and all of that. So Professor, you mentioned that you can detect my emotions at the end of the day, but can the machine detect? So, but if we are able to have not ChatGPT, but AI that is able to detect the emotions of the user, is able to adapt to individuals and so on, we have the potential to have individual tutoring machines which we can use, and I can lose my job. So what do you think about that?
All right, who's going to take that one?
Yeah, so as current model, I agree that emotion is not there, but there is certainly a potential. But we are like complicated people. Like, it's not something I don't even think no matter in next era or so, we can just come up with all the emotions because there is so much complexity. It's no matter how deep the deep learning neural network is, it's not going to just take us there. As long as if there is some guidance, some input, it could be whether you want at least in a torchlight, not even like a proper sunlight, you need that aspect to just move on.
Thank you so much. Is there a response from this end as well?
Answer.
Yes?
Yeah. With this diversity of students and different emotions, there might be students with similar nature, but still, ChatGPT gives an answer, helps, it doesn't have emotion. But when students learn from each other, peer learning is something that ChatGPT can't give. And when students tend to learn from a machine, that learning, collaborating, working is all missed out. And in an environment like this, collaborative learning is going to be a success because there are some leaders going to pop out who will help the others. And eventually when they go out into the industry also, they will demonstrate those leadership skills. So machines can't help us in those things, but we can do that.
it's true. So, I mean, I think we can take various use cases and, you know, teamwork. Yeah, teamwork is really important. Peer learning. What I said earlier is self-learning is probably even more important. Uma disagrees. But in that same team, right, most of our, I think the students who will now go into industry, right, they will see, okay, we have a team lead. And the first week, they go and ask the team lead. Team lead is very helpful and tells them everything, right? And then the next day they go again, and the team lead says, you know, come next week, right? Because I mean, he is too busy. He or she is too busy, right? So whereas this is a team lead who is there 24/7, right? You have access to. So yeah, so depending on the use case, you will have benefits of generative AI.
Thank you. Yes?
Just to add to it, I started my undergrads during COVID, which didn't give me a chance to socialize with my peers at all. And I believe he's in my batch, but this year only I met him physically. So we haven't been able to study physically, we haven't been able to socialize. So the internet became my best friend during my first year of undergrad and second year, most of my second year. So I didn't have like I mentioned, I didn't quite use ChatGPT for my undergrad, but if I had something like that, the way I'm using it now is like, whenever I have some doubt, whenever I have a problem, whenever I require something like a peer learning with me, ChatGPT would have served very useful in that situation.
Thank you, Ishini. Very interesting. All right. Excellent. Are there any other questions? There's another question. Yes.
Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. Actually, I'm coming from non-technical background. Actually, I tried to learn so many things during the day. So actually, during the day, so I was thinking about AI and these kind of models. So actually, when we think about human behavior and the mind setup, so there's a famous like debate, free will and determinism. So I think this can be one of my opinions, but I would like to ask from the panel about your opinion. AI and data science, this area is more towards determinism side, right? But humanistic side is more into free will. So what is your opinion about that?
All right. Can I ask someone to, would anyone like to respond to that? Yes? Professor Kumar?
Yeah, that's the challenge, you know, like, as I said, it's human is something, it's just, we are on our way as an animal itself, right? It's just hard to interpret. And among ourselves, there is so much variation. So, not everything is deterministic, so definitely it's a mixture of, you know, several things. That's what I would just say.
Thank you.
Just one thing to add. In ChatGPT, that's called temperature. So by default, I think the temperature is 0.8 or 0.9 to make it a bit creative. But if you want only facts, you know, bring it down to 0.2 or something like that. I think we probably are running out of time. We'll put the final poll. Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Just one poll for you to respond to. If you can get to the QR code once again and respond to that poll. What is your view now of the use of ChatGPT in student learning and assessment? We'll be more informed after this panel. Did this panel make an impact on your understanding, or did not change as a result of the panel discussion at all? So did this not influence you at all? Okay, wonderful to see your responses. I think nearly all of you agree that this was an influential panel discussion. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, will you give them a big round of applause? Thank you so much, everyone. All right. So the moment we've all been waiting for, the awards and gifts will be given out at this time. And first up is the raffle draw. Throughout the day, we were telling you to drop in your business cards or write in your names so that you can be eligible for the raffle draw. Exciting prizes. Let me tell you what those prizes are. The first prize is a tab. The second prize is a dinner voucher for 2 at Galadari. And the third prize is again a voucher for high tea for 2 people, again here at Galadari. All right, so exciting gifts to be won. And to draw the raffle, to draw out the winners, I'm going to invite Professor Prasad Vimaratna, Mr. Mohan Fernando, and Mr. Sudarshan Valihinda. So if I could please ask the 3 gentlemen to please step forward. We have a slight, just a small condition here. If prizes 1 and 2 are won by those in Informatics Institute of Technology, those in IIT, the third one also goes to an IITian, we will have to redraw because we would like somebody externally to also be a winner today. All right, so that's just the condition, the only condition that we have. And so I'm going to ask, first I'm going to ask Professor Prasad to come on stage and draw the very first winner from the box. Can we have it rotating? Is that possible? Can we get it all mixed up? All right. All right, so we have the winner is Professor Lasit Gunawardana. Ladies and gentlemen, would you give Professor Lasit a big round of applause? So Professor Lasit, you have won a tab. He's not here? All right, so in Professor Lasit's absence, there is another opportunity for someone else. All right. So here it goes. This feels like an episode from the Lotteries Board program, right? All right. Thank you. The winner is Dr. A.T.P. Silva. Dr. A.T.P. Silva, are you here? If you would rise to your feet, can we give her a big round of applause? And if you could come to the stage for a photograph, please. Congratulations, you have just won yourself a tab. Thank you, Professor Prasad. Second, I'd like to invite Mr. Mohan Fernando to the stage to draw the second raffle. And the winner of this one will receive dinner vouchers for 2 from Galadari. There we go. He's reaching in. And the winner is Charaka Kapugama. Charaka, are you here? Can we give him a big round of applause from the University of Ruhuna? Is he not here? No. All right, it looks like we have another draw. He's going to wish he didn't go home today. Here's an opportunity for someone else. From the University of Colombo, the winner is Dr. Tissa Pereira. Dr. Tissa, are you here? No? A lot of missed opportunities. So we have another draw. Okay. Yes, for the third time. And the winner is an IITian, Sandruan. Are you here, Sandruan? All right, congratulations. Ruhuna missed it, Colombo missed it, but IIT got it this time. Sandruan, come up for congratulations. Thank you, Mohan. Can we have Mr. Sudarshana Valihinda also on stage to pick the third winner for the evening? So this gift is, again, you receive 2 vouchers for high tea at Galadari. All right, so we have another winner from IIT, and this is Dilan Jayamana. Dilan, are you here? Yes, can we give him a big round of applause? Congratulations. Here. If you could come up for... Come on, give big round of applause to Dilan. Congratulations. So Dilan, you win a voucher. You win 2 vouchers for high tea. All right, thank you, Ms. Valihinda. Okay, we've got to give out some tokens of appreciation. We want to appreciate all the judges, and I'm going to invite the judges to the stage. And as I do that, I'm also going to invite both Mohan and Professor Prasad, Mr. Mohan and Professor Prasad, to join me again on stage to give out the tokens of appreciation to the judges. So can I invite the judges, please? We have Professor Kaushalya Yatigammana. Professor Kaushalya, if you could come to the stage. I'd also like to invite Dr. Darshana Kasturi Ratna. Dr. Darshana Kasturi Ratna. If you could also come to stage, please. Professor Kaushalya, if you're here, we'd like to have you on stage. All right. If not, I'd like to also invite Senior Lecturer of the University of Colombo, Kasun Karunanayaka. Thank you for being with us today, Kasun. Professor Lasit Gunawardana. Thank you, Dr. Kasun Karnanaika, and also Professor Lasit Gunawardena. If the judges could please remain on stage, because we have a group photo as well. And also Dr. ATP Silva. Dr. Silva, if you're here, thank you for being with us and for being a judge today, Dr. Tushari Silva. I'm also going to invite Professor RGN Migama. Professor Migama, if you're here, thank you for being with us. Also, Professor MJM Razi. Professor Razi. Dr. Chaman Vijayvardhana. Dr. Chaman, thank you for being with us today. Professor Tissa Pereira. Professor Tissa, if you're with us. I want to appreciate all of you judges. Thank you for being with us today. Okay. Can I also ask Dr. Tabotaran to come up to stage? Thank you, Dr. Tabotaran. Thank you for being with us today. And also Dr. Rohan Samar Singh. I beg your pardon, Dr. Rohan Samar Singh. Dr. Rohan, if you're here? No? All right. Can we please take a group photograph again? Can we give them a big round of applause? A big thank you for judging and being with us today. Greatly appreciate your presence with us today. Okay, say cheese, everybody. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Mohan, if I could ask you to stay for one more. I'd like to also call on Professor Umashanga to come up to stage. We want to appreciate you, and we greatly appreciate your presence. Thank you for being with us physically today, all the way from the USA. We really appreciate your presence with us. Professor Umashanga, are you here? Thank you so much. And if I could ask Mr. Mohan to give out, or could give out the token of appreciation. Thank you so much. If you could stay for the photographs, though. I'd like to ask Ms. Naomi Krishnaraja to come on stage and award and give the token of appreciation to Mr. Anuradha Udunura. Mr. Anuradha Udunura, who was from SLT, you're with us today and you spoke. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to appreciate you. If you could come to stage if you're here. No? All right, okay. All right, thank you so much. We want to go into the awards now, and this is for the Best Paper Awards and the honorary mentions as well. And first off, I'd like to invite for each stream. Yes. All right. So let me just quickly award the Best Paper Awards and also the honorary mention for each track. We had 3 tracks there, and for each track, I want to make those mentions very quickly. So number 1 for AI, the AI track that we had, I'm going to invite our representative from SLT, Mr. Anil Pradeep Kumar. Mr. Anil Pradeep Kumar, if you're here, General Manager of SLT Mobitel, if you could please come on stage. One moment, please. So until they get the names for us, I'm just going to invite, I'm sorry if you don't mind staying on stage, very quickly invite Mr. Manjulal Vas from the Business of Technology Zone 24/7, Head of Client Services, to also receive his token of appreciation. Professor Nalaki, if you could give that out. Mr. Vas, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your presence with us today. All right, we're just waiting for, please give me a moment there to get the names of the winners for Best Paper and also the honorary mention. Thank you so much. So if I could ask you, Mr. Anil, thank you so much for being on stage with us. I'm going to give out the honorary mention first in the AI track. It goes to Chanaka Vikramasinghe. Can we give him a big round of applause? Thank you so much for being with us. Zanil from SLT, and also the Best Paper award goes to Mr. Abdul Shyam. Can we give him a big round of applause, please? Mr. Anil, I'm so sorry. Can I ask you to give this honor out as well? Come. Give him another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. That's the Best Paper. Well done. All right. In the next stream, the computing track, I'd like to give out the honorable mention. The award goes to, and to give out the award, I'd like to call on Nilantha Pereira, Mr. Nilantha Pereira, Associate VP, Head of Delivery at ICIIT Delivery Labs. Mr. Nilantha, are you here with us? No? All right. So in his absence, I'll ask. Is anyone from ICIIT here? ICIIT Digital Labs is our gold sponsor for today. No, there's no one? All right. So I'm just going to ask the gentleman here to give it out. So in the computing track, the honorable mention goes to Rajita Yasasri. Rajita Yasasri. Congratulations. Congratulations. One more round of applause. Rajita, well done. And the Best Paper award in the computing track goes to Punsisi Kaludeva. Punsisi, well done. All right. And one more, the business and technology track. Right, to give out the award, I'm going to ask Manjula Alvas to join us again from Zone 24/7. Manjula, if you're here, thank you. If you would join us on stage to give out the award for the honorable mention in the technology of business track, the honorable mention goes to Sarah Osota. Sarah, if you're here, congratulations. Well done, Sarah. And the Best Paper Award in the Technology of Business track goes to Chetana Galage. Chaminda, I'm so... can I get Mr. Vas back on stage? I'm so sorry, but you're giving out both of these awards. All right, Mr. Mohan and Professor Prasad, we're going to give out the poster presentation. Thank you so much. The poster presentations now, and first up, I'm going to ask the honorable mention in the poster category to come up, and our honorable mention goes to Lukman Rumaiz. Lukman Rumaiz, if you're here, can we give him a big round of applause? All right, thank you. And the best poster in the poster category goes to Nirmani Patiranage. Can we give Nirmani a big round of applause? Are you here, Nirmani? There you are. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, that's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give one big round of applause to all the winners today? To all of you who won awards and gifts and certificates, well done. Congratulations. But I must also mention that all of you are winners, because as you go out, please remember to pick up your certificate of participation. It's there on the front desk. So as you walk out, please pick it up on your way out. It's now my pleasure to invite our conference coordinator, Dr. Dinesh Arunathilaka, who will now give out the vote of thanks. Dr. Dinesh, the stage is yours. Can we give him a round of applause? Conference coordinator for the event.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much for staying back and make it a very successful conference. I will read out, because I don't want to miss anybody's name, because there's a long list, but I will take 5 to 7 minutes to read it and finish it. So we want to thank first our conference chair, Professor Prasad Vimalaratne, who did an excellent job in putting it together. Deputy Conference Chairs, Kumudu Fernando and Kumudini Sarachandra, for all the work they did for the conference. All paper reviewers within IIT and other universities. I'm not going to tell the names because they have a long list of names. Then all keynote speakers, Professor Uma Shankar, who is here today physically, and giving us a very thought-provoking, nice keynote address. And all other keynotes who came online, Professor Anura Jayasumana, Professor Daminda Lahakun, Professor Wolfgang Ziegler, and Dr. Barbara Villani for their contribution in giving those keynote addresses. Then panel of judges for best paper and best posters in all tracks. So Professor Rasi, Professor Tissa Ravinda Pereira, and Professor Kaushalya Atigammana for business track, technology of business track. Then Dr. Rohan Samarasinghe, Dr. Darshan Kasturiratnan, Professor Lasit Gunawardena from the computing track, and Professor Gayan Migama, Dr. Tushari Silva, and Dr. Kasun Karunanayaka from the data science and AI track. Thank you very much. All session chairs who presided over the sessions. I'm not going to read individual names, but thank you very much for all session chairs. Then presenters of research work in all tracks, and all presenters of posters. The organizing committee, I will mention few names, but I'm not going to read out all the names. Then track chairs of data science and AI, Nipuna and Janani, computing, Iresh and Lakna, and technology of business, Abarna and Gayashini. Thank you very much for all the efforts. Then Dean of Computing for her help, Ms. Naomi Krishnaraja. Then Dean of Business, Professor Sarath Gudaratna, for all the help extended. Associate Dean of Business, Professor Nalaka Vikramasinghe. Head of Computing, Professor Nehal Kodikara. Head of Business, Mr. Austin Maskaranya. All academic staff who helped in numerous ways in putting this together. All speakers who delivered tech talks and the participants of the panel discussion. All sponsors, SLT, Asiata Digital Labs, Zone 24/7, NSINGA and Limac. Technical sponsors, ETLTC, ACM chapter. Then event partners, BCS Sri Lanka, FITIS, CSSL, ISACA and SLASCOM. Then hospitality partner, Hotel Galadari. Print media partners, Daily FT, Education Times and Sunday Times. Then marketing committee, Ashwak, Valerine, Kushanta, Chamit and Pradeep and their team. They actually put in a hell of a lot of work in putting this together. So thank you very much, marketing team, and for a very job very well done. Then finance, Charmini, Leon and Rukshani and any other in their team. Then admin, Sarath, Prasanta and Vyomi. Tanuja and IT team for all their support. CEO of IIT, Mr. Mohan Fernando, for all the advice, all the help and the support given to make it a success, and all the other management team members of IIT. Our compeer Havindra and his team, academic staff who helped to coordinate the different tracks, other work to run this conference smoothly. Last but not least, our conference secretary, Masha, for having many sleepless nights putting this together. So thank you, everybody. If I have missed somebody, I'm sorry, all included. Thank you very much for everybody. And hope you have a pleasant evening. And also hope to see you again in ICIIT 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh. Well, that's the end of the day. Thank you all for being here. Just before you leave, please, on the tabletop, there's a QR code that will allow you to give us some feedback. We'd really appreciate if you could give us that feedback. That'll be wonderful. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and see you next year.